Have you ever wondered which place holds the most dangerous and dark rituals of American voodoo? Is it vibrant and mysterious Louisiana, with its New Orleans streets filled with stories of magic, witchcraft, and restless spirits? Or is it the enigmatic Mississippi, where legends of forbidden pacts and rural magic survive in the shadows of isolated farms and small communities that seem frozen in time? This is a supernatural dispute that few would dare to face, because here we're not just talking about scary stories. We're talking about deep-rooted beliefs, traditions that have spanned centuries, and that, to this day, intrigue, frighten, and fascinate all who come near them. Voodoo has always been shrouded in mystery, laden with symbols, secret rituals, and chilling stories. And today, you'll dive headfirst into a cultural and spiritual clash between two places that breathe magic, legends, and secrets that should never be revealed. Louisiana is famous for its historic cemeteries, nighttime processions, and the legendary figures who shaped voodoo history, such as the iconic Marie Laveau, known as the Voodoo Queen. It's impossible to walk the streets of New Orleans without feeling that distinct energy, as if echoes of ancient rituals still linger in the crossroads and narrow alleys lit by candles and distant drums. Mississippi, on the other hand, holds a more intimate, secretive form of voodoo, passed down from generation to generation, hidden from prying eyes. There, stories of enchanted dolls, blood pacts, and powerful spirits abound. Root doctors are still part of popular culture, keeping alive traditions that seem to have come out of a horror story. And it's precisely this clash between Louisiana's mystical pomp and Mississippi's dark secrecy that makes this contest so fascinating. Which of these two states can claim the title of possessor of the most sinister voodoo stories? While in New Orleans, legends mingle with parties, jazz, and open-minded spirituality. In Mississippi, the fear is quieter, almost palpable, as if each ritual carries a secret too dangerous to share. This difference in atmosphere creates two distinct ways of experiencing voodoo. And it's precisely this that makes this supernatural battle so intense and unpredictable. What you're about to discover may surprise you, because some of these stories aren't just campfire legends. Many swear they witnessed rituals, curses, and events that defy any logical explanation. Stay with me until the end, because with each detail revealed, you'll feel yourself getting closer and closer to a forbidden world, where faith, fear, and power walk side by side. We'll explore the darkest secrets, hear frightening tales, and understand why Louisiana and Mississippi are territories so marked by the supernatural. So, prepare to enter a universe where reality and legend blur, where every story seems to conceal a silent warning. Be careful what you wish to know, because from now on we'll begin to unravel the rituals, legendary figures, and most chilling stories of these two lands of mystery. And as we delve deeper and deeper into this duel between Louisiana and Mississippi, I want to invite you to join me in this conversation. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far. Was it the vibrant, secretive atmosphere of New Orleans, or the dark, silent side of Mississippi, where every ritual seems to hide something that shouldn't be revealed? Your opinion is crucial, because it's through it that we can exchange ideas, share experiences, and even learn personal stories that are often as intriguing as the legends we tell here. I love reading your writing, and it's precisely this interaction that makes this space special, like a true community of explorers of the supernatural. And please take the opportunity to like this video if you also get that thrill of hearing these mysterious stories. When you like, YouTube understands that this content is relevant and helps more people passionate about mysteries find this video. This is essential for us to continue bringing you such intense and well-researched stories, full of details that make a difference. If you haven't yet subscribed, subscribe now and activate the bell. This way, you'll always be notified when new videos like this arrive, and you won't miss any of the upcoming journeys we're preparing. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people who, like you, are fascinated by supernatural stories, forbidden rituals, and legends that defy logic. So come with me, comment, like, and subscribe, because every gesture you make helps keep alive this flame of curiosity and mystery that unites us. And now, with you already part of this circle of explorers of the unknown, we will continue to unravel what lies behind the shadows of these two haunted lands. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because understanding the origins of voodoo in Louisiana and Mississippi is like opening a door to a past full of secrets, unexpected cultural encounters, and stories intertwined with the very formation of the United States. For many, voodoo seems like just a set of mysterious and frightening rituals, but the hidden truth behind this practice goes far beyond that. It is the fruit of a journey of resistance, transformation, and survival by people who were uprooted from their homelands in West Africa and forcibly brought to the American continent during slavery. When they arrived in these regions, they brought with them deep beliefs linked to ancestry, spirits, and nature. And gradually, these traditions merged with elements of Catholicism and local indigenous beliefs, creating something unique, impossible to replicate anywhere else in the world. In Louisiana, this process unfolded in a particularly intense way. The French and Spanish presence in the region brought with it Catholic traditions marked by images, saints, and rituals that ultimately served as a bridge for Africans to continue practicing their faith in disguise. It was common for African entities to be associated with Catholic saints, creating a complex network of symbols that appeared Christian on the surface, but carried within them a completely different spiritual force. At the same time, the city of New Orleans grew as a vibrant cultural center, where different peoples, languages, and customs intermingled. In this cultural melting pot, voodoo gained not only space but also notoriety, being practiced in public and private rituals, behind the scenes at popular festivals, and in secret ceremonies led by highly influential figures. In Mississippi, the scenario was different, more rural and isolated. The state didn't have the same cultural vibrancy as Louisiana, but it had a strong connection to the land and family traditions passed down from generation to generation. Voodoo there was more discreet, almost clandestine, but equally powerful. The so-called root doctors, people known for their mastery of roots, herbs, and spells capable of healing, protection, or cursing. These practitioners were respected and feared, and their influence spread throughout small communities, where faith and fear walked side by side. Mississippi had a quieter, denser atmosphere, as if each ritual were protected by a pact of secrecy that no one dared break. This difference in how voodoo manifested itself in each state shaped not only the stories we hear today, but also the mindset of those who lived in these places, creating two distinct identities for the same ancient practice. As we delve into these origins, we begin to realize that voodoo was never just about spells and needle-pierced dolls. It has always been linked to the idea of transformation, of making decisions in moments of extreme difficulty, and of connecting with invisible forces that could change the course of a life. For many communities, it was a form of resistance, a way to keep their culture alive in a world that tried to erase it at all costs. And this explains why these stories survive to this day, because they carry more than fear. They bring with them the memory of a past of struggle, faith, and power. Over the centuries, these traditions have transformed, taking on new meanings, and in some cases, becoming part of popular culture. In Louisiana, for example, voodoo has become integrated into tourist events, festivals, and even music, with direct references in jazz and blues lyrics. But even with this greater exposure, rituals still occur away from prying eyes, in cemeteries, old houses, and crossroads, keeping alive the darker and more mysterious essence of this practice. In Mississippi, on the other hand, the aura of secrecy remains stronger, as if the stories circulating there could only be told to those truly part of that community. This gives local legends a different weight, almost as if every word spoken carries a warning. Be careful, not everything should be revealed. The impact of these practices and stories on American culture is immense. Many decisions that shaped families and communities were influenced by voodoo beliefs. Pacts of love, power, and protection, all involving rituals laden with symbolism, helped create a web of stories that spanned generations. It's fascinating to see how, behind the frightening legends, there are hidden truths about faith, fear, and desire. Every candle lit in a ceremony, every root used in a spell, every word whispered in a prayer, all carry profound meaning, as if each gesture were a link between the present and the past. And that's precisely why the confrontation between Louisiana and Mississippi is so intriguing. It's not just about which state has the scariest stories, but also about understanding how each carries within itself a legacy of power and mystery. On one side, a vibrant land, where shadows dance with the music, where spirituality is present in the streets and historic cemeteries. On the other, a silent, almost impenetrable region where secrets are guarded like dangerous treasures, passed on in whispers and knowing glances. It's a dispute that goes beyond fear. It's about identity, memory, and the invisible force that connects people to their roots. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, delving into the beating heart of Louisiana, where voodoo gained worldwide fame and became one of the most powerful symbols of local culture. It's impossible to talk about this state without remembering New Orleans, a city that exudes history and mystery around every corner. Walking through its narrow streets, lined with old mansions, wrought iron balconies, and cemeteries that resemble cities of the dead, one feels as if time there moves at a different pace. It's no wonder so many supernatural legends were born here. Voodoo, in particular, found fertile ground there to flourish, fueled by cultural diversity and a spiritually charged atmosphere. Much of this notoriety came thanks to a legendary figure, Marie Laveau, known as the Voodoo Queen. She was not just a priestess, but an influential woman who deeply understood the mentality of her time. Marie Laveau became respected and feared by all, not only for her mastery of voodoo rituals, but also for wielding enormous social power. She was sought out by people of all classes seeking advice, healing, protection, and even political advantage. Many accounts say her ceremonies were impressive, with singing, dancing, and drumming that made the entire night vibrate as if invisible forces were present. Interestingly, to this day, her tomb in St. Louis Cemetery remains a pilgrimage site, visited by those who believe her powers continue to be active even after death. The city of New Orleans has become a grand stage where religion, music, and oral tradition have blended into something unique. Street parties, Mardi Gras, jazz bands playing in lamplit alleys. All of this seems to create the perfect backdrop for stories that weave between life and death, between the real and the supernatural. It's as if behind the scenes of each celebration holds ancient secrets, pacts made in silence, and promises made to spirits that never rest. And this intense connection between popular culture and voodoo has led Louisiana, more than anywhere else, to be associated with a living mysticism, something not trapped in the past, but still impacting the present. Many travelers who pass through the city report feeling something different, as if there were a dense energy lingering in the air, especially at night. The historic cemeteries with their above-ground tombs seem to tell stories without words, and some say that when walking through them, you can hear whispers, footsteps, or laughter that don't belong to any living visitor. This sense of proximity to the other side is one of the reasons New Orleans is consistently cited as one of the most haunted cities in the world. And voodoo, with its symbolism-laden rituals, only intensifies this unique atmosphere, bringing back memories of a past filled with pain, faith, and resilience. But what makes Louisiana even more fascinating is how it has transformed this spiritual heritage into part of its cultural identity. Many establishments sell amulets, voodoo dolls, and even offer spiritual consultations, a blend of tradition, tourism, and curiosity in equal measure. This doesn't mean that the deepest essence of voodoo has been lost. On the contrary, there are private ceremonies, led by practitioners who keep the connection with the spirits and ancestral teachings alive. It's as if the city has two sides, one exposed to the public, full of color, music, and history, and another hidden, silent side, revealed only to those truly involved in this tradition. Voodoo's presence in cultural events and art is also notable. Films, books, and songs have portrayed these stories, sometimes romanticizing, sometimes exaggerating the darker aspects. But for those living in New Orleans, this practice is far from just entertainment. It continues to be a form of spiritual connection, important decision-making, and even emotional healing. Each ritual, each chant, each offering carries a meaning that goes far beyond what meets the eye. It's a reminder that faith, in whatever form it presents itself, can shape destinies and transform lives in unexpected ways. And that's precisely what makes Louisiana so special. It not only preserved voodoo, but also incorporated it in a unique way, creating a space where past and present coexist in harmony, even when that harmony seems simultaneously beautiful and frightening. Hearing the stories of Marie Laveau, of the midnight rituals performed at crossroads, of pacts made in silence and promises kept with devotion, it's impossible not to feel a chill. These narratives have spanned centuries because they carry something greater than fear. They carry identity, strength, and mystery. Every detail in Louisiana seems to conspire to keep this energy alive. The old houses, with their porches and wooden windows, seem to hide stories that have never been told. The historic squares, the narrow alleys, the dimly lit bars, everything seems to hold a secret, as if the entire city were a grand stage for encounters between the visible and the invisible worlds. And that's why, when we talk about Louisiana voodoo, we're talking about something that goes far beyond spells. We're talking about a tradition that has survived, transformed, and today continues to influence mindsets, decisions, and even the way people view the supernatural. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, exploring the more enigmatic side of voodoo that blossoms in the heart of Mississippi, where the silence of the forests and the isolation of small communities create a perfect setting for stories that seem to come straight from the backstage of a parallel reality. Unlike Louisiana, with its bustling streets and colorful festivals, Mississippi has a more introspective mentality and an almost sacred respect for secrecy. Here, voodoo is not a spectacle, not displayed for tourists or curious onlookers. It is a deeply personal practice, connected to the roots of the land and the decisions that shape the destinies of the families and individuals who live there. In Mississippi, voodoo is often called root work or hoodoo, terms that reflect its intimate connection with nature and the use of herbs, roots, and objects charged with spiritual meaning. Stories tell of root doctors, people who master ancient knowledge to cure illnesses, ward off evil, or cast curses. They are figures of authority and mystery, known to few and respected by many. These people play a crucial role in community decision-making, offering answers and solutions in times of crisis, as if they were guardians of a hidden truth that transcends common logic. The journey of these practitioners is not easy. The transmission of this knowledge is done discreetly, often orally, passed on in whispers and between careful glances. There is a mentality of protecting what is sacred, a silent pact to ensure that traditions are not diluted or misunderstood. Therefore, many Mississippi voodoo stories remain hidden, like secrets buried beneath the fertile soil of farms and dense forests. These narratives carry a special weight because they speak of a direct relationship with the unknown, where every decision made can have a profound impact not only on the life of the person making it, but on the community as a whole. Unlike the exposition and theatricality that sometimes surround voodoo in Louisiana, in Mississippi, there's a respect for silence and the hidden that makes each story even more frightening and fascinating. It's said that at midnight, in isolated places, one can hear distant drums and see lights that don't belong to any human being, indicative of rituals performed far from prying eyes. There are reports of pacts made with powerful entities, offerings left at abandoned crossroads, and spells that can both protect and destroy. This side of voodoo is more closely tied to survival and the need for control in a hostile environment, where every spiritual choice is fraught with meaning and real consequences. And this difference in the use and experience of voodoo between the two states is a direct reflection of their own history and geography. While Louisiana was a multicultural meeting place, full of exchanges and syncretism, Mississippi remained more isolated, with small, conservative communities that value the maintenance of family traditions. This directly impacts the way voodoo is practiced and told. In Mississippi, each ritual is a carefully made decision, a form of transformation that can bring healing or a curse, depending on the intention of the one conducting it. This duality makes voodoo a powerful tool, capable of stirring the minds and souls of those who engage with it. A deep connection with the land is another aspect that sets Mississippi voodoo apart. Rituals often involve natural elements such as roots, stones, water, and fire, which are seen as vehicles of spiritual energy. This direct connection with the environment creates a sense of belonging and protection, but also of vulnerability, as any imbalance can attract negative forces. It's a mindset that demands respect, knowledge, and care, as if each gesture were a step on a journey where destiny is always at stake. Furthermore, Mississippi voodoo culture is intrinsically linked to a constant struggle against fear and oppression, reflecting the difficult history of a people who have faced countless adversities over the centuries. This hidden truth, concealed among the leaves of the trees and the silence of the night, is what gives Mississippi voodoo its intense and, for many, sinister character. The stories that emerge from this landscape are made of encounters with the unknown, of decisions made in moments of despair, and of an impact that goes far beyond the physical, reaching the soul and mind. The power of these narratives lies precisely in the delicate balance between faith and fear, between the search for protection and respect for the invisible power manifested in rituals. Each legend that circulates in the small towns of Mississippi is a fragment of this legacy, a piece of a puzzle that invites us to understand not only what happens, but why it happens and how it affects the lives of those living under its influence. This journey into the unknown is full of revelations and mysteries, showing us that voodoo there is not just a tradition, it is a way of life, a way of seeing the world, with eyes attentive to the invisible and the sacred. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because to truly understand the weight and impact of voodoo in Louisiana and Mississippi, we must delve into the real stories of spells, dark pacts, and rituals that, according to witnesses and ancient records, transcend the boundary between myth and reality. These narratives offer a glimpse behind the scenes of a culture full of mysteries, where the supernatural intertwines with everyday life, and where decisions made in secret have consequences that reverberate to this day. And it is precisely in these true stories that the hidden truth of voodoo begins to reveal itself even more intensely, showing that fear and fascination are just two sides of the same coin. In the heart of Louisiana, for example, there are reports of ceremonies in which practitioners use dolls to channel energy, protect loved ones, or in darker cases, cast curses. These dolls, often mistaken for simple toys, are in fact instruments laden with symbolism, capable of representing not just a person, but an entire system of beliefs and intentions. There are stories of people who swear they felt the effects of these spells, facing inexplicable changes in their lives, sudden illnesses, or unexplained misfortunes. The emotional impact of these experiences creates a direct connection with the audience, who begins to question, what if all this is real? In Mississippi, the stories take on an even more reserved, and therefore, perhaps more frightening tone. They tell of pacts made in silence on moonless nights, where voices whisper secrets among ancient trees, and the wind carries promises made to invisible entities. These pacts, which often involve offerings of blood, personal objects, or even decisions that completely change the fate of a family, are surrounded by an aura of mystery that few dare describe. The transformation these rituals cause goes far beyond the physical. It affects the mind and soul, bringing consequences that can manifest for generations to come. This deeper, more spiritual dimension of Mississippi voodoo is what makes these stories so revered and, at the same time, feared. Analyzing these narratives, it becomes clear that voodoo acts as a force that alters mindsets and decisions, influencing how people view the world around them. In both states, accounts of spells and pacts are not just scare stories. They carry a hidden truth about the power of faith, fear, and the search for control amidst the unknown. This complexity gives each story, each case told, enormous emotional weight, capable of capturing attention and arousing genuine curiosity, as it touches on something that goes far beyond the simple supernatural. It touches on what is most human, the desire for protection, justice, revenge, or redemption. Many of these cases have been highlighted in old newspapers, history books, and even academic research that rigorously attempted to understand the origins and workings of these practices. But what few know is that these stories live on, transmitted orally, behind the scenes of everyday life, in private gatherings where secrecy is the primary guardian. It is this continuity that makes voodoo a transformative force, capable of impacting not only the past, but also the present and future of entire communities. This invisible truth kept in silence is what fuels the sinister aura surrounding these stories. The power of these narratives lies in the fact that they are not simply about fear of the unknown, but about the human capacity to seek answers and make decisions in uncertain situations. Voodoo, in its most intense forms, is an expression of this search, a way of connecting the visible and the invisible, the physical and the spiritual, reason and emotion. And it is this duality that creates a constant tension in the stories, keeping the audience captivated, eager to discover the developments, consequences, and revelations that emerge with each new detail. These true stories of spells and pacts, when presented carefully and respectfully, have the power to transform the minds of those who listen to them, opening doors to profound reflections on faith, culture, and the impact of the supernatural on everyday life. They reveal that voodoo is not just a set of ancient rituals, but an ongoing journey of belief, fear, and hope, shaping destinies and creating invisible connections between past and present. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic to explore one of the biggest differences separating Louisiana and Mississippi voodoo: the contrast between the vibrant urban legends of a bustling city and the silent rural rituals charged with an almost impenetrable aura. This duality isn't just a matter of geography or culture, but reveals distinct mindsets, diverse ways of approaching the supernatural, and decisions that shape not only what is believed, but also how these beliefs impact the lives of those immersed in these worlds. Voodoo, after all, is a practice that transforms and adapts according to context, taking on different nuances and meanings, but maintaining a core of power and mystery that transcends time. In New Orleans, the scene is one of a living urban legend, where voodoo is not restricted to a closed group, but is part of the city's cultural fabric. It's common to find amulets on the streets, offerings left at crossroads, and even spells performed openly at parties and public events. This exposure, on the one hand, brings greater fascination and an almost artistic celebration of the tradition, but on the other, it also creates a constant tension between what is real and what is spectacle. The transformation of voodoo into a tourist attraction, for example, raises questions about authenticity and respect for ancestral roots. Many legitimate practitioners find themselves torn between the need to preserve what is sacred and the pressure to make the tradition accessible and attractive to visitors. This complexity creates a scenario rich in backstories, full of secrets and difficult decisions that must be made to keep the essence of the practice alive. The mindset surrounding voodoo in New Orleans is, therefore, multifaceted. For some, it's a profound religion, a spiritual connection with ancestors and unseen forces. For others, it's part of local folklore, a spectacle of mystery and enchantment. This duality reinforces the city's cultural impact and the way stories are told and retold, often taking on new forms and interpretations. This constant transformation of narratives creates a unique dynamic, where the hidden truth is always waiting to be unveiled between the shadows of the alleys and the lights of the carnival. In Mississippi, the reality is completely different. Urban legends give way to rural rituals, performed in silence and secrecy, often in isolated locations, where the community unites on a spiritual journey that blends faith, fear, and profound respect for the forces they contend with. This isolation strengthens the bond between practitioners and the natural environment, creating a symbiotic connection that permeates not only the rituals, but the daily lives of those who live in these territories. The impact of these traditions is felt silently but powerfully, affecting the mindset and decisions of entire families. In this setting, voodoo takes on a more intimate and, for many, more frightening character. The rituals are not for audiences. There is no spectacle or publicity. They are sacred moments, charged with energy and mystery. The hidden truth of these encounters is protected by a network of trust and silence, as if a barrier against the unknown. This protection creates a sense of security for those who participate, but also heightens the fascination of those who hear these stories from afar, as if they were about to discover something forbidden, a revelation kept under lock and key. The contrast between the two mentalities, urban and rural, reveals a constant transformation, where voodoo adapts to circumstances while simultaneously preserving its foundations. This duality not only enriches the field of supernatural stories, but also shows how voodoo's power is directly linked to how people relate to it, to the decisions they make to protect, heal, or, in darker cases, punish. It's a silent battle between the visible and the invisible, between public and private, between exposure and secrecy. This tension also manifests itself in the most popular narratives. In New Orleans, you'll find stories of ghosts roaming historic cemeteries, accounts of encounters with spirits at street parties, and legends about figures with supernatural powers recognized throughout the city. Each story is a piece of this vast cultural mosaic, blending facts, beliefs, and a touch of magic. In Mississippi, the stories take on a darker tone, with tales of pacts made at midnight, curses cast in silence, and mysterious disappearances that have never been fully explained. This difference in storytelling reveals a distinct mentality, where fear and respect coexist, creating an aura of mystery that captivates the attention and stirs the imagination. The impact of this on local culture is enormous. While Louisiana attracts tourists, researchers, and curious people eager to experience a bit of this magical atmosphere, Mississippi keeps its voodoo a closely guarded secret, a hidden truth known only to the initiated. This disparity creates an interesting tension, as each side seems to challenge the other to prove which is the most authentic, the most powerful, the most sinister. This dispute isn't just about scary stories, but about identity, tradition, and the right to keep alive a culture that, despite everything, continues to transform and impact lives. The journey through the world of voodoo, therefore, is full of revelations and surprises. Each ritual, each story, each decision made within these traditions shows that voodoo is not static, but rather a living force, evolving according to circumstances and maintaining a deep connection with the past, but also reinventing itself to remain relevant in the present. This dynamic is fascinating because it invites us to reflect on how fear, faith, and the search for control go hand in hand, shaping both the culture and the mindset of those involved. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, bringing to light historical accounts and testimonies that flesh out and authenticate the voodoo stories that permeate both Louisiana and Mississippi. These accounts serve as true behind-the-scenes glimpses, revelations that allow us to see beyond the veil of mystery and understand the real impact these practices have had and still have on people's lives. When we hear testimonies from travelers, researchers, or local residents, we feel the weight of these stories because they are not simple horror tales. They are fragments of a reality that spans generations and defies conventional understanding. One of the most powerful elements of these accounts is precisely the fact that they carry a natural authority, built from direct experience or proximity to those who experience voodoo in their daily lives. In New Orleans, for example, several scholars, journalists, and tourists have documented encounters that defy rational explanation, such as the sensation of invisible presences, strange sounds in cemeteries, or even the perception of unexplained changes after participating in ceremonies. These testimonies create an immediate emotional connection, allowing the viewer to not just hear a story but feel transported to that moment, as if they were right alongside the protagonists living that experience. In Mississippi, the stories take on a different tone, often marked by respectful silence and an air of secrecy. Locals speak of root doctors with reverence, describing their practices as sacred, shrouded in mystery and important decisions. These testimonies are rarely public, circulating in small communities or among family members, which increases the fascination of these stories. The authority of these accounts lies precisely in their restricted nature, as if they were fragments of a hidden truth, known to few, but which has a profound impact on the lives of those who participate. This aura of exclusivity makes the accounts even more engaging, awakening a natural desire to understand what lies behind these almost whispered voices. In addition to testimonies, historical documents and old newspapers also reveal much about how voodoo was perceived and treated at different times. These records often reveal a distorted view, born of fear and prejudice, but they nonetheless point to the cultural importance of this practice. News of lawsuits, accusations of witchcraft, and hastily interrupted rituals all help paint a complex picture in which voodoo appears as a force that disrupts social, political, and religious structures, having a real impact on people's mindsets. These historical backgrounds help construct a rich narrative that goes beyond fear, but also encompasses the struggle for respect, freedom, and identity. Documented accounts also reveal that, despite persecution and marginalization, voodoo has managed to remain alive and reinvent itself, adapting to social and cultural changes. This capacity for transformation is one of the most fascinating characteristics of this practice, which has not remained stuck in a static past, but has continued to influence generations with its blend of faith, ritual, and symbolic power. This journey of resistance and adaptation is what gives voodoo a unique place within American culture, especially in these two states, so different yet so connected by this tradition.